All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to look at Chapter 12, Lesson 2, Sides and Angles. But before we do that real quick, we need to go back and look at our two-dimensional shapes, just to be sure that we know what our shapes are. So I'm going to go ahead and let's look at some two-dimensional shapes. Two-dimensional shape is a shape with only length and width. We have circles, triangles, squares, and rectangles. We also have pentagons, hexagons, parallelograms, and trapezoids. So now that we looked at those, let's go ahead and look at lesson 2, sides and angles. Maybe. Little technical difficulties. Okay, let's look at our problem of the day. How many squares can you find in the shape below? Go ahead, take a few seconds, look at this square, and see how many squares you can find. All right, let's check and see. I got 5. If you did not get 5, let's take a look at it. You've got one giant square. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's look at the shapes for number 1. Go ahead with your parent set next to you. You don't have to reply to me or anything, but go ahead and identify which of the first 4 shapes would be a parallelogram. You can just say the color, maybe point to the screen. Also, number 2, which of these 3 shapes would be a square? Give you a few seconds here. All right, for parallelogram, you should have done the orange and the yellow, and for square, the blue shape. Have any questions, feel free to ask me through Seesaw or Dojo if you have any questions over those 2 shapes. Let's go ahead and look at number 3. Which of these 4 shapes would be a rectangle? And number 4, which of those shapes would be a pentagon? Give you a few seconds here. All right, for a rectangle, you should have said the green and the orange. And for a pentagon, all of them except for the purple one. All right, test practice. Which of the following shapes is a hexagon? So we can just say number 1, 2, 3, or 4. So somebody sitting next to you, tell them 1, 2, 3, or 4 for which shape is a hexagon. And the correct answer is number 2. All right, let's investigate. Let's look at two-dimensional shapes and identify the sides and angles. Here, they took a triangle and they made each shape or each side a different color. So we easily identify orange, blue, and green as 1, 2, and 3. So there's 3 sides. Then we count the angles where the 2 sides meet. Orange and green, orange and blue, blue and green. And again, that is 3 sides and 3 angles. Go ahead and you can just complete the table by talking about how many sides this shape has and how many angles, which is a pentagon. How many sides a square has, how many angles, how many sides and angles of a hexagon and a triangle. So I'll give you a few seconds here and go ahead and look over those. All right, let's go ahead and check our answers and see how many sides and angles each of those shapes have. So a pentagon has 5 sides and 5 angles. A square has 4 sides and 4 angles. A hexagon has 6 sides and 6 angles. And a triangle has 3 sides, 3 angles. If you notice, the shapes, the two-dimensional shapes, all have the same number of sides and angles. I went ahead and drew these earlier. Not the best drawing, but Abigail draws 2 squares in pentagon. Carolina draws 2 hexagons and 3 circles. Who drew more sides? And explain. So go ahead and look over those and see what you can come up with for Abigail and Carolina. Give you about 30 seconds or so. All right, let's take a look here at Abigail. So 2 squares. Each square has 4 sides. So 4 plus 4 should be 8. And a pentagon has 5 sides. So I have 8 plus 5. She has 12. Caroline draws 2 hexagons. So 6 plus 6 is 12. I'm sorry, this was 13. 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 0, 0, 0. So let's check our answers. And it says Abigail draws more sides because 13 is greater than 12. All right, Math in My World, I'm just going to read over the directions here, and we're going to talk about it briefly. You don't have to draw anything. So I have square, triangle, parallelogram, trapezoid, and hexagons. So I'm going to talk about a hexagon. How many sides would a hexagon have, and how many angles? Well, a hexagon has 6 sides, so it should have 6 angles. A triangle has 3 sides, so it should have 3 angles. Now, a square, a parallelogram, and a trapezoid all have the same number of sides and angles. They'll have 4 sides and 4 angles. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put on Seesaw here in a bit the guided practice page. I'm going to put 746, and I'm also going to put the independent practices on there of 747 and 748, as well as the My Homework page, which will be 749, 750. So I'll put those on Seesaw, and I'd like to see you complete those by tomorrow because I'm going to go ahead and put Chapter 12, Lesson 3 on YouTube tomorrow morning. Thanks a lot, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know.